Christy, come on up, please.
Hi, my name's Kirsty. I'm a chronic alcoholic serial relapser and I don't know how to stop drinking. Please help me.
Whoa.
Well, come on, boys, step up to the plate.
Whoa.
Hey, you're the only girl out here.
Well, it doesn't have to be a girl. I work with the long-term untreated alcoholic way better. Chris is good at it. Mike's good at it. Peter's good at it. You're good at it, Charlie, and Marty's good at it. So step up.
Well, there's a line in the big book that says we want to stop. So I would ask you respectively, are you willing to do anything, whatever it is, to quit drinking for good and all? And the other thing with alcohol is we know you might need some hospitalization like a detox because we can get really sick if we just try to white knuckle it. Are you willing to go into even a detox for 5 or 7 days, assuming you can? Or if you go to AA, are you willing to go through the shakes and the jitters for a few days until you get past that? Are you willing to do anything to stay sober? And I mean anything. Or do I want to stop? I can't make you stop. No one here can. But God could and would if he was sought.
Thank you, brother. And
Where are you from?
Sorry, Katie, I muted her already.
Of course. Somebody just asked if she was from the UK. Maybe we could hook her up
So
with.
Christy's the name. Chatter, please, your number. Christy's the name. Chatter, your number. She sounds like she's from the UK. Tracy, come on.
I'm just really happy she's with us. I mean, you expect a couple of little tricky questions out of the beginning there, but that's the one. Is that not the one? I mean, we came on here at noon for you, buddy. Kirsty, we came on here at noon for you to liven up this screen, to show you the sobriety is amazing. It's a great way to live. And you got to have something to aim at before you can start. So give her, I mean, get alongside of somebody. You're going to see more answers to that question in the chat box than you are from us six.
Tracy R, come on up, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Tracy. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. And I thank you for everything today. My question is, I heard a couple of times the position of neutrality, and I have never heard that before, but I did hear it a couple of times today. So I just wondered if someone could speak to that, because I should probably know about that.
Well, I think a position of neutrality is in the 10th step promises. And I was the one who said, when I see Mark in heaven, I intend to say, you never told me position of neutrality didn't feel good.
That was
Sometimes position of neutrality does not feel good, but it comes afterwards. It's pretty remarkable. And it's one of the gifts. You know, there in the 11th step, it says we pause when agitated or doubtful. Pause, ask, remind, and say. A lot of people just use the one line out of the book that says we pause when agitated. I'm more doubtful than I am agitated. And if I've done these disciplines as laid out in 10 and 11 to the best of my ability, and as you grow, you have to do them more and more and more, that pause is a spiritual gift. It's about a 2-second pause that comes and says, oh, don't touch this. No fighting. We've ceased fighting anything or anyone. Position of neutrality, safe and protected. Keep your mouth shut. Try that on. And you know, that for me. Now, there are people who have the way self shows up for them. They wouldn't say peep if they had a mouthful. They might need to speak up. I don't. I can promise you shut up is my best thing. But they might need to speak up depending upon how self shows up and how their inventories have gone. And trust me, your question's a great question. I asked Mark thousands of questions. And my sponsor is Marty Ruby. And, you know, we were both in untreated alcoholism, and she knew I was dying, and she read the big book and taught it to me by reading it. And we got in the lifeboat and Mark guided us and she took off and I took off and it was remarkable. So there's really no question is a silly question if you ask me.
You know, if I could just touch on page 85, it speaks about that position of neutrality, safe and protected, but it's talking about that we don't have to avoid alcohol or run from it. But Mark took it to a much broader application of taking a position. And a lot of times, you know, like I went in to tell him one time that there was this Nimrod in the noon meeting, just talking out of the side of his neck. Of course, God knows I judge no man. But when I told Mark about what this guy was saying, he goes, "Do you have spiritual consent with him?" I was like, "Well, no." And he goes, "Well, then it's none of your business. Take a position of neutrality." And you're like, "What?" So I'm in the same boat as Katie, although I'm not going to suggest to her that shut up is the answer for her. I don't think that would be smart.
Thank you for the question. Anthony B, UK, come on up, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Anthony. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic and grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't got any questions. I just want to thank you all really, you know, for the impartations of what you shared tonight, the pearls of wisdom from your own experience of going through the book and having a big book awakening and working the steps and having a spiritual awakening and getting connected.
Anthony, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you, man. We did mention questions only. Thank you very much. You got to thank the speakers. Appreciate you. Biddy on the rocks, come on up, please.
Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this magnificent journey. I'm wondering, some of you did talk about your home groups, but not very much. Do each of you have a home group with a heartbeat like a GSR? Do you study the traditions as much as you study the steps and work them into your life? I'm absolutely in love with this program, and I'm so pleased to be able to ask this question of, I do have you on a pedestal, sorry.
Mike D, Paulus of Alcohol. Yes, I do have a home group, Full Flight from Reality. And actually, we're getting ready to do a traditions group inventory for my home group to see if we're being of maximum service to the fellowship. So traditions and concepts, 12 traditions, 12 steps, 12 concepts of service. They fill out the circle and triangle. So yes, most definitely. Traditions, not only in the group, but in your personal life also, you can use them. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Biddy, for your question. Harlan, I believe it is. Please come on up.
What's up, guys? Harlan, recovered alcoholic from Southwest Florida. First of all, thank you guys for speaking today. My question, I guess what I kind of want to hear about is kind of if there is a difference between working with somebody who has already been through the steps compared to somebody who hasn't been through the steps at all. If there is a difference, what is the difference?
My experience with that has been ego. I get lots of folks, they just want to have a new experience and they just want to stroke the ego that they went through the steps again. And a lot of times it's about unlearning a lot of things they've learned and the belief systems they've acquired that are no longer working. You get a youngin come in who, you know, like I didn't even know who Bill and Bob was. I love those guys because it's a clean eraser board. And there's a lot less unlearning because I acquired belief systems in AA that weren't working either. So I battle ego when those guys come along. So I take them to be devilmen so we can locate exactly where they are in their current unmanageability and how much agnosticism they have going on or self-reliance that they're completely unaware of. It's ego. And God forbid if they're out speaking a lot, I have to bring a sledgehammer then.
Ollie, can I touch on that one for a second?
Please, please.
I got two tricks I use in that. When I'm with somebody that's with time, or they've been around for a minute and they say they work steps, I do two things. Sometimes if a guy comes to me, he's in trouble and he has time, I'll take him, I'll do what I call taking him through the steps backwards, where I start at 12 and they don't know I'm doing it, but I go, how many guys are you sponsoring? What kind of service commitments do you have? Do you do prayer and meditation? Have you done an active census? Where are you at in the amends process? How long since you wrote inventory? What do pages 60 to 63 mean to you? And it's just going backwards through the step process. And at other times, I'll have guys teach the step. I go, you know all the steps? They go, yeah, I go, then teach them to me. And sometimes when they try to teach them to me, you see where the holes are.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Harlan, for your question. Dave B, come on up, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ella. One question for Chris. I'm an alcoholic. I got sober in '94. I was originally from Montana. I moved out in '94, or not '94, but '91. But he mentioned a city up there. If Chris is still there, I'd like to know what city that was. I drank in most of them, but I was just curious. I drank because I did a lot of traveling up there, but I was just curious. There wasn't very much AA up there when I was up there and drinking. But go ahead.
I was in Kalispell.
Thank you, Dave, for your question. Naomi, come on up, please.
Hi, thank you. So I'm 24 hours into a treatment center. I've been trying to stay sober for 9 years. Is there something that you can give me, some bit of hope or something I could do differently, or how I can try and stay spiritually awake? Just anything.
The first thing I'm going to tell you, because I'm in that business, is stay there as long as you can, because your mind is going to want you to leave in a few days or a week. There's a couple of walls you have to get over. It's going to talk to you. It's going to try to pull you out. You stay there as long as you can. And I'm thrilled that you're on a Zoom meeting in the treatment center in 24 hours. This is unbelievable.
This is great.
Upon discharge, they can make arrangements for some AAs to come scoop you up and take you to a meeting. So it's a nice seamless transition. Do not walk away from recovery. Your head's going to tell you to do it. It's going to try to seduce you into getting out. I learned my lesson. I can have a drink or whatever I'm into. You go from here as long as you can right to a 12-step fellowship. I don't care what fellowship it is. Make sense? Cool.
Nancy, real quick. There's two things that I see, because I've worked in the industry 2 billion years and watching folks get out. There's two reasons that they'll 9 times out of 10 relapse. The first little lady that asked the question too, this goes for her. Check and see if there's any dishonesty, just blatant dishonesty going on in your life. Sometimes it can be real subtle. The other piece that kills us, self-pity kills more alcoholics than anything else. And it's just, and that's me, buddy. I walked in, I'm walking around with a black eye patch, buddy. I got the trump card. I got, Katie, you wouldn't want to go out with me, would you? I'm as miserable as I can be, but I can move a room with it, so I keep doing it, but you can't stay sober that way. And bad things have happened to us. I know that, but what we do is we get in here with the power of God and we walk right straight through it and come out the other side stronger because of it. And thank God for the facilities that can hold us long enough to where we can get our feet on the ground. Just, buddy, get engaged and you'll be okay. I promise you. I was 7 years in Alcoholics Anonymous and never had a 30-day chip.
Yeah.
Until the old guys got hold of me and said, it's time to work the steps now, not later, not 6 months from now, right now. So go get them, Nancy.
Thank you for being here. Nancy C, come on up, please.
Hey, everybody, I'm Nancy and I'm an alcoholic. And the question I had was, the book talks about laying aside prejudices. And how did you guys get over your old concepts of the God of your understanding, the fear of him, the God of your childhood or whatever? I'm trying to act as if and do all that. I'm currently on the 4th step. On the 4th column, and that's my biggest resentment right there is God, and I'm sure that it's because I don't really understand him. I probably never will, but I want to know how you guys got over, if any of you had that fear of God, distrust of God. Maybe it was shame or whatever, but I want to know how you guys got over that. Tell me about your experience, please.
Well, I'll jump in there. Real quick. Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, I'll just be real quick. You know,
No, you got it. Ladies first. Go ahead.
Thank you. That's a really tricky question because, you know, we agnostics is not just driven towards the God of your understanding. We agnostics is driven towards prejudice of all kinds. And so you have to realize that what you learned as a kid, you're a grown woman. And that's what you learned as a kid. We learned a lot of things as children that are just not true today. And if you will look at the attitude is on page 55, it talks about this attitude that you have to take in here. And I have to read it very quickly because it really is so god dang effective. It's in We Agnostics, and I'll shoot you my phone number in the chat. It says we can only clear the ground a bit. There you have it. All of us, that's talking to all of us. It says, if our testimony helps, one thing, sweep away prejudice of any kind. I mean, political prejudice, current environment prejudice, God prejudice, doesn't matter. Enable you, which means empower you to think honestly. So that assumes that we can't really think honestly, right? We can't differentiate the true from the false. And we have problems there. You know, we get better and better as it goes on. Encourage you to search diligently within yourself. So man, you are going to have to swallow and digest large chunks of truth about yourself. Then if you wish, you can join us on this broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. And I promise you, it will. And put it in affirmative prayer. Say, okay, God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, please talk to me. And I do a two-way prayer. I've always liked that, where I write a letter to God about paragraph, and then he writes back to me, and it's audibly different. It's incredible. It's one of the greatest tools. I didn't learn that till I was 28 years sober, 30 years sober. It all comes a little late in the game. What do you got, Mike?
As a result of what I see in step one, what I see in step one is that I am powerless. I don't have what's necessary to recreate my life. Initially, I don't have what's needed for me to stay away from the substance. So it's a very simple deal. Move from a place of desperation to a place of being willing to believe. In We Agnostic, it says, do you now believe, or are you willing to believe? And from that place of willingness, I proceed forward, and don't worry about it. Just be willing. This has got to be. God has got to be. And I get the opportunity to see God go to work and start smashing stuff in my belief system as to who he was. Kind of difficult in the beginning for some of us that had a religious background, religious.
No, did we lose
you? Mike, you were muted there, brother. Maybe his internet.
Ali, can I just touch on that a bit?
Please, yeah, please come on.
When you get a like a day like today, and there's a lineup to come and talk about certain things, and I think every one of us here touched on a relationship with this power. We are the people who are begging you to lay aside. So we have traveled this dubious path. We're begging you to lay aside your prejudices, and all your prejudices are your past experiences and whatever your assessments of those might be. We're only asking you to lay them aside. So I come in here with a really jaded view of Catholicism, and I would never slam Catholicism at all, because many years later, I've come to find out what the teachers and the instructors in my life meant when they were talking to me as a young man. And it's all come full circle. And I've now got a relationship with my creator that couldn't have been possible had I not laid aside all of my prejudices. It wouldn't have ever happened. And, you know, if you know, we're drawn to spiritual reading, we're drawn to sort of talk to people, each other about the God and our experiences. And so over time, I developed this need for spirituality. And my life is much more conditioned around a constant communication with God. And as I expressed earlier today, I think the treasure map is a consciousness of God. The treasure that we are getting, the treasure we're going for is an actual consciousness of God, which is the awakening. And that's what happens. And then you look back and it shows that all the things were true all along the way. All the things in my life spiritually and around religiosity even were true. They were all true. And it wasn't, I took issue with everything and now I take issue with nothing. And somebody mentioned the position of neutrality before. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And I'm open and just open to this power. And there's obvious places where God shows up. They're just so obvious. You can't see them if you have prejudice. You can't even see them. So, and in Alcoholics Anonymous, and these guys, again, these guys on the screen, you're sitting across the table from somebody. The question was asked earlier about a new guy or somebody who's been around here for a little while. I love how gently everybody answered the question. But if you've ever worked with a brand new guy who's never been exposed to any AA, it is a treat. It is beautiful. Oh my God. You know, it's fantastic. But anybody who's been around here for a little while and has issues around God or around, well, what are these 12 steps? And they've been around here for a little while. It's very hard to bust through that prejudice. So this is really all about, we're the ones who are begging you to lay aside that prejudice so that you can have a new experience. And it comes very quickly to those that do it. That's how I
don't think Abby knew how smart he was being, you know, because a lot of times we can't tell you necessarily what we believe in, but I can spend all night telling you what I don't believe in.
Yeah.
And I don't think Abby was ready for that argument with Bill. And he goes, well, why don't you pick something you believe in? And Bill's like, nope. Because he's like, he said that statement hit me hard because he didn't have an answer for that. You know, he's like, well, I don't want to talk about what I believe in. I want to talk about what I don't believe in. And when he hit him with that, he goes, wow, he melted the scales of prejudice fell from my eyes. Because it's like, you know, what if there might be a power? And go with that, you know, and it's, again, but the problem I had was I left it. I formed all my opinions about God and church and everything by the time I was 13. And I come into AA at 28. I'm still thinking like I'm using the belief system of a 13-year-old. And if I was seeking God, I wouldn't go over to the junior high school and find a 13-year-old budding alcoholic and say, tell me about God, you know? But that's who was driving me.
Yeah.
So we have about 15 minutes left. I appreciate your time, everybody here and everybody who stayed on asking questions. Mr. Mike D, you were kicked off the internet. Did you want to finish your thought, brother?
No, I
Okay.
guess it was finished for me.
Thank you very much.
My iPad died. I had to get on my cell phone. So yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Ali.
Thank you, sir. Dennis S., come on up, please.
Thanks so much. Marquise needs to talk about the voices, eh? And 5 years sober, as I live in step 10, how do you stop the voices besides telling it to shut up? Thanks.
Well, you boys are taking too long. I'm going to jump in. How do you stop the voices? By using step 10? Is that the question? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. No, 5 years sober, living in step 10. How do you stop the voices?
Well, 5 years sober, be easy on yourself. You know, like I said, you hit these walls all through sobriety. Some are better than others, some aren't. But you just don't quit the disciplines. You know, I use the disciplines of 10 and 11 a lot like fitness. I go to the gym every day. Some days are better than others. Some days don't feel very good at all, but I still do it. So prayer and meditation it can be fabulous for a long time, and then it just kind of falls off. And you got to mix it up. You know, Mark talked about, he followed and studied a lot of spiritual teachers, and you got to kind of start to narrow, I think, this is my opinion, you got to start to narrow those spiritual teachers down and see who speaks your language. And if people speak your language, then follow that guide until you get to your next door. And then you're going to have to open that door and see where that takes you to. Because the 10th step, if you're writing inventory and somebody's listening to it. Now, solitary self-appraisal is pretty dangerous. The man on page 72, 73 is a very easy guy to fall into. is that you can begin to have this relationship. And feel free, I'll put my number in here. Feel free to either call me. I don't do email worth of crap. Call me and I'll send you some stuff that might help you try a couple of different dances to do and see if it works for you. That's my opinion.
My experience with that is baseline is I can't stop the voices. I have no power to do it. I have to assume they're going to keep coming, like the clouds roll in. I live in South Florida. The clouds will get really dark. It'll pour for 20 minutes and then the sun comes out again. And I have no control over it. So the thoughts are going to come. What praying and awakening allows me to experience is space or distance from them, not believing the thoughts when they come by. And that is the hook. I believe everything my mind tells me, here comes my current reality. So they're just thoughts passing. In fact, we can get to a point where you can almost hear them coming. Here comes more delusional, more the lie. Here comes delusions of grandeur. Here comes I'm the lowest form of dirt in the whole world. It just comes. You know, you're talking to someone and that voice says, you know, you're an idiot. You sound like a fool in this conversation. What am I going to do with that? Well, thanks for sharing. Have a nice day and keep the conversation going. And so one of the things we taught was turn in order to go out. That power overcomes the mind all the time. So I can't stop the thoughts. But what happens when they do show up? I have God and I create distance and separation, and I do not have to believe this predator. It's a 4-letter word called mind. Why do I believe it? I'll tell you why. Because I believe they're my thoughts, and that gives them power, and I believe them to be true. It's the trifecta. It's not a good remedy. False evidence appearing real. I believe all of it, and it's make-believe. It's the boogeyman under the bed that I believe is really there. So I wish I can tell you I'm successful at that all the time, but I'm not. But overall, when this head starts talking, I have some instructions to follow. Those spiritual muscles start to get ripped. You start to spiritually get ripped, if you know what I mean, where that stuff is not locking in. Last thing I'll say is this. I would say for the longest time, my thoughts, I have these thoughts or my thoughts. That couldn't be further from the truth, because if they're my thoughts, I can exchange them for new ones. Like when I buy a shirt and I don't like it, I exchange it. The problem is I don't have thoughts. They have me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't unhook from them. I don't have the power to do it. So I need to get spiritually fit and call on the power to create space. Make sense?
God stops the thoughts. God.
Amen.
Not me.
Have fun with it. Have fun with the madness in your brain. I mean, that's what I do. I heard Judy speak there at my meeting last week, and she talked about, she's 36, 38 years sober, something like that. And she's walking out of a facility, and there was some gift bags sitting there for the next function that was going on. And a thought just ran through her brain. I could take a couple of those bags. That's just a thought, right? It's just a thought. I started laughing, and she goes, I'm 38 years sober. And she goes, and I still have those thoughts. And the whole screen was laughing their asses off, because I think it's normal. I think those thoughts come and they go. They come and they pass. I think you got to laugh at them. You got to laugh at them.
Thank you for your question. Betty, please come on up, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for an absolutely beautiful, beautiful celebration. And rest in peace, Mark. Right, Katie. Okay, I'd just like to ask a question about, I've just recently started using two-way prayer. I love this idea of affirmative prayer as well. And this is 17 years in, and I'm beginning to feel like I am having a completely different experience of being alive with love in this program, and a deep reality thing going on with God, and it's just blowing me away. And I'm so glad I stayed sober long enough to just get these juicy bits. And I'm really excited about what the future holds. I was curious though, Katie, about the one of the other guys, was it Marty, who talked about asking about consideration. Could I ask you a question for consideration? Was that you or was that you, Charlie?
It was Charlie.
Okay. I was just wondering, do you practice that as well?
I practice that with Charlie. So, because with my sponsees, I'll offer a consideration, but I allow them to talk. They will consider it. If it's really hard, I'm way more gentle than I've ever been before. And you know, this kind of ties into the other gentleman, you know, those voices in our head. I was in the bondage of self last night. There was no way I was getting out of the bondage of self. I called my sponsor at 9 o'clock at night last night. And when she was able to talk to me, I had to go walk outside in the flipping cold. So Charlie didn't hear it. And I didn't get relief. Let's be real clear. I did not get relief. I listened and I would never interrupt her. And she's so spot on. And, you know, I think that the offer for your consideration, at least for me, seemed to come more in steel on steel. And so I don't use it as much as probably Charlie does. Charlie and his guys, forgive me for this, I'll just give you my observation. Men sponsoring each other, very different than women sponsoring each other. You know, we're gonna go down 19 roads and avenues and we're gonna tie a bow on it at the end and look at it and feel complete. Guys don't always, they do, but they don't always have to go that deep. They can shelf an idea pretty god dang easy, and I'm quite jealous of it. I wish I could shelf some of my shit. You know, I wish I could have shelved it last night. Just laughed at it, like Marty said, laughed at it, moved on. I was ready to kill somebody. And you know, it's tough. So no, yes and no.
Karen, come on up, please. Karen, come on. Yep.
I'm working on it. Hi, Katie. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Chris. Karen B. from Colorado, Joy of Living Group. Thank you guys so much. Katie and Charlie, and I use, Charlie, your from Mark Houston, your one page on what spiritual consent is. My question is, would you be able or willing to share that with the group, the one page we've been talking a lot about spiritual consent. I'm using it, but other people may not have experience with that yet. So I don't know if you have a way to put that up for everybody and find out, so other people can see the spiritual consent that I walk through with my sponsees. That was question one. Can you do that? And Katie, question for you. Thank you so much again. Can you quickly break down this year 1 to year 3, year 3 to 5? I caught that as I was driving and I didn't quite hear sort of the breakdown of, are you with me?
Oh yeah. I think, you know, honestly, keep in mind, this is me and my sponsorship lineage and how we kind of, what I observe over the.
Thank you. I get that. Generality.
18 months to 3 years is really that period of time where they're still working a program based on alcoholism because they're trying to have a spiritual awakening, but they're not mature enough spiritually. It doesn't mean God's not in their life and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of that is happening, but the new guy is, you know, setting up the tables and chairs. He's been given this opportunity. He's proud as himself as he can be. And by 18 months, he's looking around and going, what the hell? They're taking advantage of me. He's not understanding what the root of the trouble is. And so then at 3 to 5 years, I can talk to somebody. I play a little game where I can talk to you because I get calls and like all these other guys on here from all kinds of strangers. And I can figure out where they are in sobriety. And 99% of the time I'm accurate based on what they're saying, how they're saying it. And then I'll say, how long are you sober? And, you know, sure enough, 7 years, right at that 7-year mark. So 5 to 7 is another wall you hit. Then 7 to 12, and it could be anywhere there. It could be at 7, it could be at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're going to hit another wall because in order to grow, it's like labor. You know, I mean, you don't go into the hospital with your first labor pain and go, let's have that baby right now. It's like, oh, no. This is going to take some real pain. And that's what ends up getting us to this spot. What Charlie says sometimes that I find fascinating was when he said, when he and I were both 17 years sober. I am 5.5 months longer than him, but that's another story. But he said he thought that would be the only wall he ever hit. And I knew that was not going to be the case for me. I knew I was going to hit walls. It took me 4 years to come out of untreated alcoholism because I'm so self-reliant. I mean, wow, it was painful. Nights of sweats and crying and, you know, these guys don't know shit and what's going on in my life. And then I hit another wall at 26 years and nothing was going really wrong in my life. It was just flat, completely flat. Nothing was happening. And then I hit another wall at about 34 years and it's been remarkable. And so I'm prepared to hit another wall. I don't look forward to it, but I know it will be fantastic and it doesn't have to be horrific, you know, but we're all getting older and life is tough and I'm going to lose friends and my health might not go well. Charlie's health. I realize we're going to be facing like kind of what Marty was talking about. So I hope that was helpful and not too drawn out.
I didn't know how to post a document, so I just put it all in the chat. I'm so happy you like that because I send out a big bundle of stuff all the time and all of it is stuff that other people wrote. The only piece I wrote is the spiritual consent piece.
I know. I noticed you put the qualifier on the bottom.
That's right.
Charlie P. 2012
2012.
to be copyrighted.
Yeah, I'll do like Dave F. and copyright it.
That's right.
Thank you very much. We got about 7 minutes left. If I could ask a remaining question, the people asking the questions to not ask the speakers to repeat anything. I can get you the recordings and you can listen to the recordings again. This will give room for other people to ask questions. Mary P, come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Mary and I'm in Mississauga. Thank you very much. I was just going to ask Chris Raymer, who, when he was talking, he said that Mark Houston was somebody that had a mentor and his name was Paul. And I'm just wondering who that is. Sorry, I would have put my hand down because it would have been in the talk, but you just asked me. Thank you very much.
The gentleman I was talking about is Paul Martin. He was in Chicago forever and passed away with like 64 years of sobriety. Just a wonderful guy. He wrote a bunch of articles for the Grapevine. Paul Martin. You can go to any of the speaker sites out there and you can see Paul Martin. He was a heck of a speaker too. Great guy.
Thank you for your question. Peggy Thomas, it says, come on up, please.
Yeah. Hey, Peggy Thomas. So my question is, I love helping people. I love just going through the big book. But I have a problem with prescription drugs. People, there seems to be a veil that I can't get through. I try not to sponsor them. I mean, meth, heroin, weed, fine, but prescription pills. What do you guys do?
I've had some experience with folks like that. Some folks need to be on medication. I knew a guy back in Brooklyn, he says, he was very light about it. He says, if I don't take these meds, he says, I will hurt myself. So some people just need to be on meds. And I realized that what's in front of me may be as good as it's ever going to get for them. I try to hold those folks that I'm sponsoring accountable. You know, how often they're taking it, what are they taking, how often they see their doctor not to prescribe when they themselves, they're going to take a little more, take a little less today. That's real dangerous. But what I'm sponsoring is an alcoholic who happens to have some psych issues on meds. That's who I'm sponsoring, the alky. And so I do the very best I can. And I get the veil you're talking about, but that's not for me to make a judgment call on. I can't work with them. It's just, they're doing as best as they can in the light they're standing in. And I used to be a little intolerant, and I'm incredibly, have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Compassion, because they want to get out too, if they could. They don't, a lot of those folks don't want to be on the meds. Mm-hmm. Folks are not abusing them. So same thing when, you know, someone has a different lifestyle than me. I'm not sponsoring the lifestyle. I'm sponsoring an alcoholic. So, yeah.
Thank you. Sean, would you come on up, please?
Thank you. My name's Sean. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hey, buddy.
How important is it to have an attitude of gratitude?
Can you say that again? You have a very thick Brooklyn, New York accent. I couldn't hear it.
You said how important is it to have an attitude of gratitude? How important is it to have an attitude of gratitude?
Gratitude, I was taught a long time ago, is an action. I can talk about it, but never show it. Again, everything for me trickles back to God. God, show me how to be grateful for having a ham sandwich tonight because I can't afford a steak. Mark used to tell me I'm above ground, sucking air and sober. Be grateful.
Yeah. I mean, and gratitude is something that everything points towards, but it says with this attitude, you cannot fail. And what they're talking about there is that consciousness that I'm talking about, with the attitude that under all conditions and under all circumstances, if I turn my attention from a problem or from a circumstance or situation to the consciousness and awareness of God, that problem dissipates somehow. So I don't know about the attitude of gratitude, but I do know you hear a lot of old guys say this, and I have to agree. This is one of the lip smacking party line bullshit things that are actually true, as they say. I've never seen a grateful person get drunk, and I really haven't. I've never seen somebody who's been grateful get hammered. And so I think it's pretty important, Sean, but I know that the attitude they're talking about in the book is an attitude of subjective positioning in the third step before your creator. With that attitude, you cannot fail. And that's that as far as attitude goes, that's how I see it for sure, Sean.
Coming into the program, I believe, and it's Mike D stuff, we come in with an attitude of grandiosity. And the longer I've stayed here, the simpler my life has become. That attitude of gratitude is that, very simply, I woke up this morning. Somebody went to sleep last night. They didn't wake up this morning. Somebody sleeping in a cardboard box. I live in a house that I own. So it gets very simple. I have shelter over my head. I have food to eat. And the longer I stay, the simpler it gets. It takes time. It takes time. It takes movement. It takes evolution. It takes staying awake, being awake, to see life before your very eyes.
Thank you so much. Just two more questions we're going to do, and that's it. Julio, come on up, please.
Thank you. So I enjoy it. I'm 3 years sober, and I'm sponsoring guys. I pray and meditate every day. So I kind of get on the whole first year suggestions, like don't make any life changes, don't make any get into relationships. For example, I'm stuck on my spirituality. I haven't been able to work on my mental or my physical. Like, for example, earlier to get just as my first day at the gym, today's my second day, and I'm like sitting in the parking lot just listening to you guys, share your experience, and I'm like, oh man, I should be at the gym, but I'm stuck on my spirituality. How do I move first year of feeling like I can't make any life changes? Or how do I move forward from that first year suggestions where I can't make any life changes 3 years down the line?
No. Julie, that's not what it says. The big book never says anything about that. It says we be careful what we're going to do. Go out there and get involved, because that's what this is about. We lose a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous. They sit in the rooms and just go crazy, just go get bored. It's time to jump in there, brother, and do what we're supposed to do. I go get them.
That's not what was told to me when I started. They told me, do whatever you want to do, Mike. Just be willing to accept the consequences for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there, like Chris said, go do it. Go do the thing. I'm still here 34 years later. Yeah. And I've done some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, the whole don't get in a relationship for the first year means that on day 365, you're going to be really horny. That's basically, then we got danger, Will Robbins, danger. You know, try going out and taking a woman out or a man. I'm not sure what your preference is, but you know, and have a cup of coffee. Try not to sleep with them for the first 2 weeks. You know, I mean, try to do things different. The sex inventory is really fabulous on, you know, the conduct inventory. How do I want to be? You know, and to me, that's there's a lot of things, you know, that whole first year thing. I don't even know where that came from, but I'm, you know, God dang, when AA was being born, they gave a guy a big book, put him on a train up from Cleveland. He came down to Texas and started AA, you know, and boy, I'm glad they didn't tell him don't do anything for a year. So I think you're talking to a group of people who, I love what Mike said and Chris, because, you know, go out and live your life, but we're talking about principles and you know, we can't rob you from an experience you're going to have, and you're going to have one. The minute you get in a relationship, strap on the saddle, because you're going to ride a bucking bronco that we all do, and be sure you're connected with people so you can, you know, talk your way through it. And then, you know, you'll find you can't get out of the relationship because you're just two crazy people. And, you know, I mean, it's almost like you have to go through that to get to where you need to be. And we all, everyone on this screen has had that experience. Trust me.
Thank you, Julio. And the amazing gift of Zoom, we get to have our last question from across the pond. Claire, Glasgow, Scotland, come on up.
Thank you. My name's Claire from Glasgow. Thanks so much for the afternoon. It's very unexpected for me. It's been absolutely amazing. And what I wanted to ask was that quite a few of you have talked about being current. I'm big. I mean, I listen to a lot of Mark Houston stuff, and many of you actually. So a lot of it's not new, but it's reaffirmed lots. But the currency being spiritually current. You know, I'm now sponsoring people, and I'm just new to it. So I just wondered if somebody could clarify that. I think it was Peter, Marty, and Mike that mentioned it.
Yeah, certainly. The sort of the concept of being current is for me, it's really a 10th step proposition. I've always said that I believe that all the secrets to good living are in the 10th step, and what that's helped me do is it's helping to put me right in the now. And we have wonderful spiritual leaders and authors and everything to talk about the present moment. And it was my experience with Sandy Beach in a conversation over dinner in Tampa Bay, where we talked about the things that had befallen him in his life, the death of his daughter, for example. And he talked about his experience, about how quickly that with the assistance of God, he was able to move into the now. And I remember shaking my head at that experience, thinking to myself, oh my God, like that is such advanced sobriety. That is such advanced, you know, and then I come to pass where I'm driving down the road and my daughter attempts a suicide, and all that stuff came flooding into me, and I got right centered core in the now. And from that point to this, I believe that everything about our recovery, everything about sobriety, everything about the spiritual life that I'm supposed to be leading is in the now, and nothing to do with what happened at noon today. And it has nothing to do with what's going to happen at 8 o'clock tonight. And again, it's not just about relief. It's about a full life. I have nothing dragging me back, and I've got nothing keeping me pushed back. I lead this full life, Claire, where I'm just, I try, and I'm not attached or connected all the time, but the now is always when I get reconnected. And it's always in the now. Like even when I started talking 3 minutes ago, now is now. And there's nothing in that to be afraid of. There's nothing. I said it earlier, and when I was speaking, is that if you went back a year and you tried to remember what was going wrong in your life a year ago, which was cataclysmic, it doesn't even exist today. Yet, you know, so that's kind of how I approach about being current. Stay current. And current, the duality of that word that's not a coincidence. Current's meaning in and now, but also current meaning the power flowing in the now. That's what that means, you know. So that's what I wish for everybody, because when I run into guys who are struggling, It's always about something that's just happened, or it's about something they're afraid is going to happen. It's never about where they're at right now. And one of my chief measures of working with people now is to try to just take a few minutes with them. And I'm talking about, I mean, I really love alcoholics. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'm talking about tears and hugs and sitting across from each other, going through a great deal of pain or loss, and trying to assist them in getting into the now, getting connected to God that can bring us into the now. It's one more quick thing and then I'll shut up, is the 5th step stuff. It's where I found that the most powerful. I've gone into 5th steps unwillingly, listening to somebody else's 5th. I don't want to do this. I don't want to spend half a day listening to the bullshit. I just don't want to do it. And then I get on my knees and I ask God to come in here with us. And all of a sudden I have this incredibly rich power and presence, and boom, we're in the now and the current flows. And I've never seen it more demonstrative than there, you know, over consistent time. I don't have that if I'm not doing this stuff. So being current is absolutely, I think it's absolutely vital.
Thank you, Claire, for your question. I'm just going to, before I bring Teresa on to just close us off with a couple of minutes of closing thoughts and a prayer, just want to again thank everyone who attended, and every single one of you guys, Chris, Charlie, Katie, Peter, Marty, and Mike. Thank you so much for continuing to be the light and the walk that you do, because it shines in my heart and to my family. So thank you so much. Teresa, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm on the iPad. Okay, hi everyone. I can't put my camera on. I've been through 3 devices. They're all losing battery. I've been in the garage because if I talk upstairs, mommy wakes up and she just got up right when multitasking here. Okay, so I can't put my camera on because it's about to die, my iPad. But I want to close this out. I wanted to thank everyone, and I wanted to say a couple things. I remember a woman asked me the question, which was, tell me about your dash. And I didn't know what that meant. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, on your tombstone is the date that you're born and the date that you die. And in between, there's a dash. If you were to die right now, what would they say about your dash? And this is what we've done today. This is what we've done one day at a time with one alcoholic talking to another. We've been contributing to the dash. I don't ever want to forget all the giants of the shoulders that we walk on. And I want to thank each and every one of you for speaking about them, representing them, walking like them, talking like them. I remember my brother said to me one time, I was talking about the program, and he said, you're finally no longer parroting it. So I think sometimes we begin parroting and then it becomes us. So I hope anyone who's been on here has been inspired. I hope that you have someone in your life like a Mark Houston. I don't think there's anything wrong with me talking about all of my spiritual giants, whether I quote Ralph White, where I talk about Betty T, I talk about Marcy, Mark Houston, Katie P, any of you on this thing. What'll be terrible is if they want me to talk about them. Each and every one of these people have never said, I take credit for your sobriety. And that's the humility that I found here. And that is the attraction. I remember Ralph always said, you want to see God with skin on it? Go to a meeting. If I was able to immediately see God, I would have did it in church, growing up in church. I found it in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I hope that each and every one of you that attended this, the intention was that it's attraction rather than promotion. And that we represent this, that you guys have illuminated this, and Mark did. Whether he wouldn't have liked being spoken about it, I hope we never stop talking about what he taught us, because I still listen to him and I regurgitate that information to the sponsees and I give them his, his tapes. And more importantly, I hope I live the way he lived. I just try to aspire to each and every one of you. This is contagious, folks. I hope it's become contagious and that you get excited. So those who've hung in there, that we're down to now 235. Thank you for sticking in. Also, all the speakers, this is the no matter what club that you guys are still here, tired, got shit to do, but y'all still hanging in here like me with running out of batteries, trying to multitask. So I just wanted to say that I know that people say we don't glorify people in the rooms or put them in pedestals or give them acclimates, but I don't know how true that is, because it's about depth and weight and attraction rather than promotion. So I just wanted to mention that. We honor all those who've come before us, and you guys did a marvelous job of that today. Thank you so much. And I hope that we leave out of here carrying that message and that demonstration. And I got to find my notes, okay?